Streaming. Yeah, my camera is looking fine.
You can't find your camera.
Yeah, it is streaming.
Is it?
Yeah, I am live, but the video is not coming. As always, YouTube is cranky. Can you guys see me?
No. You can't see you. Body. Live stream is starting soon. It's all that we get to see.
Okay. Dashboard, stream health is good. My camera is not showing up on there. There's my camera.
You know, I have a camera. Camera బానే ఉందా?
Yeah.
ఇట్లయితే డివైస్ మేనేజర్ లో ఉంది.
How's it?
మీరా?
Can you see my face?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's live, right?
It's saying it's streaming now, but we can't see anything. It's all black.
No, that's all right. That's because I have put in 60-second delay. 3 are watching. Okay, guys. Welcome to this EDJeffect Permaculture live stream channel. We're going to talk about permaculture today. I've got my wife Laya with me, and I've got Sai Prasanna Kumar with me, who are helping me out with this live setup. Now, I can, Sanjay Chawla says he can see me. Can you hear me? Is the audio okay? Great. We will start talking today about permaculture. It's been a long time since I did a live stream on permaculture. First of all, I have to say thank you to all of you for patiently waiting through the YouTube crankiness, and thank you for being here. Now, let's start with permaculture. How many? I think most of the people who are going to get onto this channel, this live stream, are familiar with the word permaculture and the basics of it. But there are some of my friends that are coming online who are pretty new to this. So let me kind of go over the basics of what permaculture is all about. Now, permaculture has been in the world as a word since the mid 1970s. A professor called Bill Mollison, what he did was he was thinking about how humans are leading the life in the world, and the first time he was looking at the fact that the way we live is destroying the planet. The way we live is destroying the planet, while natural systems grow in increasing abundance and fertility. human endeavors are going in increasing depletion and pollution. He was thinking of setting up a way where he can bring about agriculture, economics, and social sciences together to start to set up a lifestyle that is uh, abundance, that is in abundance, and that is working with nature. He was thinking about that, and he worked with one of his students called David Holmgren, and they coined the term permaculture to mean a permanent agriculture initially. That is, an agriculture that sustains for centuries instead of depleting the land, instead of depleting the resources, as an agriculture that does not require any other external inputs other than itself. Later on, the term evolved into what we now consider permaculture as, which is permanent culture, a way for humans to live. Permaculture, as it stands today, has millions and millions of practitioners, teachers, and designers around the world who are actively using the tools of design to set up actually very, very, very abundant systems all around the world. From India, from China, from America, from Australia, all over the world, there are students, thanks to efforts of the first generation of permaculturists who tried to spread the word. There are many farms, there are many homesteads, there are many urban centers that are practicing permaculture, and in that process what they are doing is they're finding and evolving more and more fresh new solutions to set up the way we live. Think new technologies are being found out which are nature friendly, which provide abundance, etc. New methods of growing crops, new techniques regarding gardening, all of them are being found out by permaculturists. And permaculture, as it stands, does involve every other field of human endeavor. That's the amazing introduction I'm going to give to permaculture. It is a way, sorry for the camera shake, it is a way for humans to live in absolute abundance. Now, how do we go about that? Why are we here as humanity? Why are we here in this place? How are we here in this place? And how permaculture addresses that? And why I am hooked to permaculture in the first place? A bit about me. First of all, my father, Sri Kiral Bharadwaja, was an awesome personality, a spiritual stalwart. Thousands of people used to flock to him to listen to his discourses and all of that. And he had a very sharp sense for ecology and for ethics, a very sharp sense. He was the guy for whom a lot of people would wait on, to serve him. Still, whenever he traveled in a train, every morning, if he wakes up in the train, he would go to every seat. As soon as the sunlight is up, he would go from seat to seat, bogie to bogie, switching off any lights, saying we should not use more electricity than we need. We should not waste any resource. He was that kind of a guy. And one of the things that he used to do, which amazed me and still amazes me, is that he used to work as a lecturer. And as a lecturer, he used to get some salary. Out of that, he used to pay the house rent and the mess bill, that is for his food. The rest of the money he used to put in a jar and keep it in front of the photos of the Lord in the front room of the house. Any person without any permission can take whatever money they want from that box, and he lived like that for 12 years. Before he got married, he left his job and all of that. When he used to earn money, he used to set up all his extra money in a jar and keep it outside for people to pick up. And when someone asked him why he is doing that, he said, money or any other resource is only useful when used. One day someone stole a carpet from his front room, a straw mat and a blanket, that we used to put as a carpet. And someone stole it. So he comes from college. The person there says, someone stole the carpet. My father said, well, it's all right. They found a better use for it. They needed it more. We can buy one more if we want. don't worry, as long as they're using it, it's all right. So that is the kind of a mindset he had. He had a mindset of abundance, not one of scarcity, right? Right now, when we look at, for example, why do I need to do a job? If you ask that to a young person, what he answers is that we do a job to earn money. And if you ask an employer, why are you giving a job to that person says, I need the work done. Uh, the way he actually saw it, the way he actually did not directly explain it this way, but when you look at his teachings and books, the way it seems is that he saw the whole scenario in a different way. I have some problems. Say I have some issues that I can't tackle on my own. For example, I can't be a doctor and a farmer at the same time. So I need somebody to produce my food. So what I do is take my surplus as a doctor, which could be money, which could be something else, some other resource like knowledge or whatever, share it with somebody who needs that resource. And that person is going to share what he has in abundance. That is, for example, a farmer can share the produce. He looked at the whole scenario like that. The people who set up a college or a school, what they are saying to the parents is that we will help you take care of your children. And what the parents are saying to the school or college is that we will support you in doing so and support you as with earning. If you take care of our children, we are going to take care of you, and that's what paying a fees means. And the college principal then says, I can't teach all these kids, I need somebody to help me. So a lecturer comes forth, a teacher comes forth, and help out the principal and the parents. So the principal shares some of the surplus of money he got from the parents. So it's actually a different way of looking at it. Rather than looking at inputs to a person like salary, you start looking at outputs of a person. What can you do? How are you supporting the system in a better way? And that was intrinsic in the way my father lived and the way he taught. I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to, just put out the surplus out there for anybody to use. But as of now, with the kind of lifestyle I have, with the kind of scenario we have in society, it's pretty hard to do that. It's very difficult to do that. Permaculture, when I was thinking of how to go about this, I was inspired by Vivekananda, I was inspired by a bunch of people. I was seriously contemplating living like an ascetic, a sannyasi, because a sannyasi never needs anything. He gives up whatever he has, and that was my ideal in life. As it turns out, I end up getting married, and what I started doing was, okay, what can I give to the world? I am very good at reading books, and I am very good at learning things very, very fast. So I started setting up a home school. I am quite good at teaching, but over a period of time, permaculture gave me the capacity to really understand that without damaging nature, we can create abundance for ourselves in so many resources. In time, we can create abundance of time. We can create abundance of food, abundance of fiber, fuel, information, that we can freely share, that we can share appropriately. It need not be a philanthropic thing, that need not be something that is given out without any return, but we can look at all these issues and we can be in a position of abundance rather than a position of scarcity if we start living in a particular way. And to live in that particular way, permaculture starts with 3 ethics. These are the central pillars of permaculture. That is, first is earth care. We have to take care of the planet we are living in because it provides us all the resources we have. Everything from this laptop, from this technology, to our own health, to our own breath, everything we are getting as part of the planet. And every time we do something, if we are not taking care of our own home and all the living beings that are contributing to its health, we are eventually going to not have a permanent system. Think of this. We are in a water scarce world. We are right now in an air scarce world. We are not having enough air. We are having food scarcity. We are having health scarcity. We are having information scarcity in an information age. There are so many vital questions that are whose information is not easily available, even online. There are so many conflicting informations, etc. We are living in a scarce world because whatever we do, we are consuming more as population than we are producing. There are more number of people who consume YouTube, who consume information online, but compared to that, very few people actually produce information for others online. Um, you understand what I'm saying? In every field, people are looking to consume more and more. More people are consuming more than they produce, and then there are a few people who are positioned in the society due to either the circumstances of their birth or their profession or their talent or a caliber, or through unscrupulous means, they are able to accumulate a lot of resource, and that is causing, we know, haves and have nots, and that is causing the problem of scarcity even more. With earth care, that is caring for the base resource that we all have, the planet, the atmosphere, the climate, the trees, the forests, the seas, the oceans, the lakes, the water, the rivers, the bacteria, everything in it. The more we are careful about it, it's not about conservation or non-conservation, it's not about killing or not killing, it's about caring for the system as it works. If we don't do that, we are never going to really take off as humanity into abundance. As long as people were living closer to nature, we never had any of the problems of scarcity or of pollution. Most of the tribal systems around the world have developed their own ways in which to live sustainably with the world. Their population numbers were low, and they were simply able to go live in such a way that it does not harm nature. Think about this. How long do you think it takes to chop up a tree without tools? First of all, without metallic tools. Uh, let's consider an age where metals were not yet found. Do you think anybody was chopping off any tree that is hundreds of years of age? It would take an year to chop off a tree with a stone axe. And if it is one person, probably the person will get injured first than the tree. But slowly, we have developed some technologies that enabled us to chop trees slightly faster, metal tools, etc. But even then, after you chop a tree, how much do you think you can carry? A person can harvest from nature only as much as he could carry before he invented the wheel. Whatever he carried, he has to carry on his head or on his back. And that automatically put a cap on how much a person consumes from nature or takes stuff from the forest. As this technology progressed, we started developing bullock carts, right? Even that is limited by the animal's ability to pull the weight, right? And our ability to load the carts. Now, with cheap fossil fuels, one person can cut off a tree in one day, a large tree, hundreds of smaller trees in a day. And with trucks, we can carry heavy loads out of the forest. With this power of fuel, of coal, and then of petrol and diesel, we had the power to harvest a lot more from the world, and we have used it. Did we use it or what? Whether we needed something or not, we just go in and get it, and if we don't like it, we throw it away. That's the modern culture we are in. You chop off a tree, most of the tree you don't need the leaves, you don't need the branches. So what you do, you just discard all of that material and get the log, and in that log you cut off pieces and only take the perfect pieces that are suitable for your walls, doors and windows, and the rest of it you don't return it at least to the forest, you burn it, right? That's what we do as humans. So with fossil fuels came this age of surplus, with this age of abuse, this age of exploitation, and we have exploited the world in a big way, and we are causing problems. So if we really want to live in a sustainable way, the first thing we need to do is stop this madness. And to stop that madness, the guiding compass inside must be an ethic. That is the earth care ethic. That's the first one. The second thing is the people care. Most people really do not see these two together in the world. For example, you will have NGOs that deal with conservation of nature separate, and social NGOs are separate. Usually, both the trusts, both the types of departments don't come into the same picture. People care is very critical. The way we take care of each other. We have destroyed the world, right? We, in the sense humankind, has destroyed the world to an alarming extent. There is no need for, as Jeff says, there is no need to gather any more evidence than we already have. We have lost soils, we have lost ecosystems, we are changing the climate, and we are scarce in every resource that we need. We have a lot of population, we are making species extinct. We have eaten off all the fish of the ocean. How many of you know this? About 5 to 10% of fish of all the oceans of the world remain now. Do you guys know that? Let me check up on the comments here. So, you guys, do you know that we have eaten off all the fish in the world? About 5 to 10% that we could not catch are there. Yeah, only 5% remain in all the oceans of the world, right? Just imagine the city you are living in, or the village you are living in. Just imagine the size of it, and then imagine that size on a globe, a school globe. It's a dot, right? Compared to that, all the blue areas, how gigantic the oceans are. We, humankind, have been able to use heavy machinery like steamers and all to eat up all of that, all the fish. Only 5 to 10% remain in the ocean. Did we eat all those fish? No, we killed most of the fish, and we only took. That's what happened. That's a story for another day for those who don't know. But we people can set it back right because we are clever, and the time is not yet crossed. If we start behaving very well now, we can reverse all of this. We can bring back the ecosystems. We can bring back the nature into resilience. We can bring back fertility to the soils. We can't bring back extinct species, but we can bring back most of the networks of the world. And for that, we need to start taking care of each other, of the way people themselves live. We should not, if we want a sustainable culture, it should not be based on exploitation of each other, right? It should be more based on a sharing of surplus between each other. What I can give to you and what you can give to me, and that is the beginning of people care. When we start dealing with earth care and people care, and we start dealing with any system out there, any system whatsoever, we are sure to end up with some sort of a surplus. Some sort of a surplus. Whichever system, whether it's agriculture, whether it's education, we will have some surplus. And we need to think of ways to returning that surplus into earth care and people care so that we can repair the system. These are the 3 ethics of permaculture. Now, having ethics is one thing, right? We can sound ethical, we can speak ethical, but how to bring ethics into practice? That's the next aspect of permaculture, right? And that is, permaculture starts with a directive. Directive is a direction to act, how to act. The first thing we need to remember, Bill Mollison says, and permaculturists say, is that you are responsible for your own existence and that of your children. That's a very important directive. It's not just about agriculture. It's not about how you set up your farm. It's not about whether you are growing a food forest or not. Permaculture starts with a directive, and that directive is that I have to be responsible for my own existence and that of my children. What do we mean by responsible? Right now what happens is, I give some money, I throw money literally to a vendor, and say, you're not giving me good food, right? We have these campaigns where we shout saying there are so many pesticides, we need to change the system, right? Responsibility of my food lies on the government or lies with the system, stuff like that. No, first of all, we are responsible for ourselves. We must make the right choices, and we are responsible for the lives of our children, right? We need to set up systems, we need to encourage systems, and we need to live in such a way that we don't throw away our responsibility on others, right? Where we cooperate rather than enslave each other. That's the first prime directive. Now, when I look at myself, am I behaving responsibly towards getting my own food? Now, when I eat food, one of the ways to look at that is to go through it psychologically, do a self-analysis, right? And without feeling guilty about it, do a nice ethical audit of my own feelings. The other way is to actually look at, this is the brilliance of another brilliant part of permaculture that I really like. You can actually look at how you live, and based on that, see how ethical you are. As I keep saying in my permaculture design courses, you can many times you can weigh your ethics in carbon, in energy, in kilograms, right? For example, by eating food, I'm going to get so much time. I'm going to get time of life, and I'm going to get so much metabolic energy. How am I using that energy? How is that energy returning into the system? Because if you want a sustainable system, you want the energy to loop around. You don't want energy to be dissipated. Imagine a bank account, right? I don't like using banking metaphors to explain this, but it kind of makes sense. If you have a bank account and you want to be able to sustainably and repeatedly take money out of the bank account, you always have to put more in. Otherwise, you'll run out of money in your bank account, right? Same thing with any system. There has to be a return of surplus to the system. Now, if I'm eating vegetables, what's the output I'm giving? Apart from the poop, which I'm dumping in a septic tank here in Hyderabad, which I'm not properly returning, how am I returning my energies? How am I gaining resources? And what are the resources I'm giving out? Right? Electricity here. I have a light on just so that you guys can see me better. Is a consumption I am doing right now. And what is the output of it? What is the output of using this? If this electricity is useful to inspire you guys to, be inspired about permaculture and about the world all over again and do great stuff, then this energy is awesome. Usage of this energy is a constructive element, a constructive process, right? That's basically how we start thinking about it. In that thought, one of the ways in which we deal with people and with nature is through food production or cloth, fiber production or fuel, right? That's how we interact with the natural world. Food, fuel, fiber, things like that. We and agriculture is kind of the interface between humans and nature in a voluntary way. People are interacting with nature in a voluntary way through agriculture across centuries, throughout centuries around the world, and it has been the most destructive force of nature and of people in the recent decades, if not previously. And based on this, most of permaculture revolves around how are we going to get food, fuel, and fiber without destroying nature. And as in that process, a lot of talk about how to grow your own food comes into picture, because the more sustainably and responsibly we provide for ourselves, the better the system is. That's why you see permaculture very dominant in the field of agriculture, in the field of farming, in the field of horticulture, in the field of aquaculture, food production, because we need to sort that out. Before I go any further, let me recap quickly for the people who have just joined. The first problem that we have is that once upon a time we could only harvest what we can as humans with our own physical energies. now that we have fossil fuels, we have over harvested the nature and its abundance, and we have moved into a state of definite scarce future. The resources are going to be more and more scarce each and every minute you wait. Right? Every minute a football field size of Amazon is being cut, which will take a few hundred years to grow back to its potential. That's the first problem. The second point is that the permaculture as a movement, as a concept, and as a practice starts with three ethics, that is earth care, care for the people, and returning any surplus. Uh, and to do that, what we start thinking of is we start thinking of various inputs and outputs, how we are getting our resources and how we are giving back resources to the system we are based on. To do this, to do this sort of a thing, we look at design, right? Before I go into design, and after that we are going to jump into question answer session. Before we get into that, let me see if we have any comments that I need to respond to. Yeah, no questions I can see so far. Let me go ahead and talk of a couple more important things before we move on to design and then on to question answer sessions. The way we need to look at this, one of the first things that surprises a lot of people, although people know this, but they don't see it this way. The problems of the world are many, right? There is female infanticide is still a problem in India. Illiteracy is a problem in India. Oppression of women is a problem in India. Healthcare, right, is poverty, is hunger is a problem. There are thousands and thousands of problems we have, and there are great people working on each of them. But you can categorize all these problems in various orders, right? For example, illiteracy. If we take illiteracy as a problem, all it takes is 1 or 2 generations. What India now, the government of India now is saying is that 94% of Indians, citizens of India who are below 12 are educated. That is, in one generation we are going to have 94% literacy across the country. Let's suppose that they are right, but it's really a generational thing. You can set, if we set our minds to it, it takes hardly 50 years max to get everybody on board with literacy, right? That's all it takes. Temporally, in a time scale, it is no more than 10 to 15 years if we all set our mind to it. Everybody, in the evening we are going to teach, or on Sundays we are going to teach in free schools around the country. We do that for 10 years and we are going to have the illiteracy problem go away. It's a time-based thing. But there are problems which are bigger and are more fundamental than these things. And one of the most important problems that we see is pollution, right? Pollution is defined in permaculture in a very peculiar way. What is pollution? Pollution is the output of any system that is not an input to another system is pollution. That's basically what pollution is. An unused resource, an unused output is what pollution is. And that's a very interesting way to look at pollution. We say plastic pollution, air pollution, sound pollution. What are all those? Bikes or cars, exhaust fumes. That's the output of a system called car, right? Automobile. It's not being taken up by another system, and therefore it's there without being absorbed by any other system, put through cycles. It's becoming a pollution. Same thing with plastic. And when you look at pollution that way, what we have done is, I need not reiterate the greatness of plastic, but it's ubiquitous now. Any cubic meter of water in the world, anywhere in the oceans, deep oceans, underneath the Antarctic ice cap, everywhere there's plastic. right? It's everywhere. Plastic has found its way everywhere because it is not being taken up as food or as a source of energy by any other system. The way to convert plastic into energy, the day we find it, when we find a system to take plastic as an input, it stops being a pollution. It becomes a resource, right? Now, is plastic a problem? I reckon it's not. Plastic is not a problem. You have a lot of anti-plastic propaganda these days for the last 10, 15, 20 years, where we are all saying no plastic. Newspapers are saying that countries are banning plastic. But come to think of it, plastic is an amazing substance that does not get damaged very fast. The real problem is how we are behaving with plastic. Plastic is more or less a permanent substance. It doesn't rot down, right? So with that critical piece of information, the property of the material being so permanent, we should use plastic to make permanent things, right? We can set up houses that last thousands of years if we use plastic in the appropriate places. We can use plastic for irrigation pipes on a farm. Really well-made plastic, not plastic that rots. We have amazing technologies that can make plastic that does not corrode, that does not pollute, that does not leach chemicals. We already have the technology, and we can make things that we require, humans and nature require permanently. Things like irrigation pipes. You set up a pipe or a drainage pipe. You set up a pipe. You need not worry about it for the next few thousand years. It's a system that will keep running. Right? At the end of it, if you make use of plastic that way, most of it will be recyclable. Most of it will be reusable. Right now what we are doing is we have taken a permanent substance like plastic and started making impermanent objects with it, like plastic covers, right? Which will get damaged in 1 or 2 uses. And that's the problem. Plastic being used for very temporary things is the problem. Plastic in itself does not have a mind of its own. It's neither good nor bad. It's just an object. It's just a material. We can choose not to use it where it's not appropriate. If we don't have a use for it, let's not use it. But if we find a use for it, let the use be permanent. Let the use be for thousands of years. Don't make plastic covers. Don't make styrofoam, right? With something that's permanent. It's a mismatch between the quality of a material and its usage that's causing pollution, because it's getting into a form where it can't be taken as an input to other substances, right? One neat way is to use plastic in making roads. We can collect a lot of plastic garbage. It's an energy intensive thing. It requires a lot of energy, but we can do that. We can clean up the systems. But better than us doing it, while the first problem is pollution, a bigger problem is there. Nature can clean up plastic. Eventually it will. But forget about plastic. It's a tricky situation there. But with all the other things like carbon in the air, carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases that are causing global warming or global weirding, air pollution, etc. Nature can clean up the air. Nature can clean up the rivers. And it does it through ecosystems, through the way nature works. The way nature works is that any resource gets in touch with nature. For example, sunlight getting into a forest. The trees convert sunlight. They take it up. They use it to grow. They convert it into sugars. They convert it into starches. They convert it into plant material, right? And then there is another, little department of nature called animals or insects that eat this fruit, and they convert it again into a different form, and something else eats that, and it's a cycle that is kept, in rotation, and all material is absorbed back into the system. If you put a bottle of high concentration poisonous material, if you mix that into a gigantic tank of water and you water the trees of a forest, yeah, some of the trees will die, some of the animals will die, but you know what, at the end of it, you will not be left with any poison, because it will be taken up by the millions and millions and millions of cycles and systems in nature. Those cycles and systems are what are called the ecosystems, right? The ecosystems, what they do is they dilute away any harmful systems, any harmful materials from the system. If you have a poison, it will get distributed so evenly that it does not impact anything. And nature has that amazing mechanism called ecosystems. We are destroying the ecosystems that can clean up most of our pollution. First of all, we are polluting senselessly, using the wrong substances, using the wrong mechanisms. Second of all, we are killing off the systems of nature that can clean all this up. That is ecosystem. So that's the second big, that's actually a bigger problem than pollution. Loss of biodiversity, loss of ecosystemic stability of the world, right? For example, I love that, and it's kind of good, but we say plant trees. No. First of all, plant forests. You know what the difference is? A forest is not just trees. A forest is a whole living system. It has animals, birds, microbes, spiders, insects, various, the whole lot, fungi. And the way a forest functions is very different than how a bunch of trees will function. To save the world, you need to plant trees. True, but better still, you can plant a forest. Even better, stop taking out forests. Right? We need to do all these three. As a permaculturist, we love forests, and we think Bill Mollison said, forests are the best teachers, and we are killing our teachers, because nature has shown us how to produce abundantly. So that's a bigger problem. We should stop losing ecosystems and start building ecosystems if we ever want to survive this scenario. The third thing, the biggest thing is, most life and most of the resources we have and most of us, we come from one critical resource, and that is soil, right? Crops grow on soil, plants grow on soil. We are literally soil. All of this is either air or water or soil. Yeah, you ate your breakfast today, it must have contained some carbohydrates, some fruits, some vegetables, various colors. All of that came from a brown black kind of a looking thing called soil, and there's a layer of living soil around on earth, and then there are ocean soils, there are water based soils, excuse me. And because we are deforesting, because we are using agricultural practices that are not very good, we are losing tons of soil. I can give you my numbers. I have my notebook here. Stuff, basic stuff that I teach in my PDC. These are the topics, for example, of alternate energy systems. You guys see that, right? As biosand filters, this and that. I have got the numbers here, but it will be interesting if you go online and search for how much topsoil is being lost by each of your states. That you are from North India, search for your state, or look at the numbers. Look at that numbers in India, right? How much topsoil is being lost in India, and we are losing soil faster than we can make it. Unless we stop our bad practices, we lose that critical resource. And what happens if we lose that resource? You know what? We won't be concerned about breast cancer. We won't be concerned about illiteracy. We won't even be concerned with the well-being of each other when there is no food. Psychologists give a time period, a grace period of 3 days, right? Imagine this. If there is no food from today, in 3 days, we'll all be in such a position that we would not back off from killing another person to get the food. Every father will feel it his duty to provide his children food, and he would rob, steal, and if need be, kill others to get it. We are humans 3 days away from being savages. That's what we are, and we have to realize that, right? It's all well and good to do everything else, but without adequate food, it's just 3 days that humans remain humans, civilized humans. Just 3 days. Think about that, right? If your child is starving for lack of food for 3 days, what do you do? As a father, what do you do? If your wife is starving, if your mother is starving, elderly mother, elderly father, you are starving, yeah, maybe we can put off for 4 or 5 days. Maybe we can even sacrifice ourselves, but no one can really stand their loved ones starving. 3 days is the grace period when psychologists say we start going berserk. Soil is where we get food from. Without soil, none of the crops we eat can exist. Without ocean soils, ocean life can't survive. And we are losing soil at an alarming rate. We have lost a lot of soil, and it's time we start building it. And this is what we call the biggest problem of the world in permaculture. Not that the other problems are not there, they are there, but they are there only as long as this problem is solved, right? It's a generational thing. There won't be future generations if there's no soil. There won't be future generations if we don't stop destroying natural ecosystems and start developing natural ecosystems in partnership with nature. There won't be future generations if we don't stop polluting the world. There won't be any future generations whatsoever to educate. There won't be future generations in which to fight for women's rights or freedoms or illiteracy or whatsoever. Those problems need to be solved. I am not demeaning them at all. But what I am saying is that while we are at it, we better clean up our act in such a way that these three essential big problems that are critical to the survival of us into consideration. So what we say, enough of negativity here, but what permaculture provides you is a way to grow your food without depleting your soil, to provide your requirements without destroying natural ecosystems, but actually enhancing natural ecosystems. And it does it by providing a way to think. And that's why permaculture is not an agricultural system. It is not, you can't compare permaculture with, say, is permaculture good or organic good? No. Permaculture is just a way to think about agriculture. You want to do organic agriculture? Let's think about it, right? And let's write how to go about it. For example, this is for you farmers out there, my organic friends. There are people who are trying to do organic. For instance, my favorite example is that of bananas. You have a banana plantation and you put in your organic fertilizer, whether it be Jivamrutam or whether it be some other organic fertilizer or mulch for that matter, and you plant an acre of banana. You know what happens? The next time a strong wind occurs, all your banana plantation is gone, right? Now in newspapers, and people are generally, we as people are looking at, as a farmer I look at a fallen banana plantation and say I have lost so much money. But you know what we have lost? As humanity, we have lost 3 or 4 months of sunlight and growth and food potential from whatever 1 acre you have. We have lost that food forever. We are not going to get food anymore from that land. Now all we are saying is you can do organic, but let's look at whether your land is going to get a lot of wind or not. Does it get a lot of wind? Right? If it is not going to get a lot of wind, if you are secure, if you are in between hills, if you have the microclimate, yeah, the next thing to ask is, do you have the water required to grow bananas? Is there a sustainable source of water for you to grow bananas? If not, by using up the water to grow bananas, we are actually doing more harm than good. Imagine pouring liters and liters of water for banana plantations, which the conventional farmers and even the organic ones are doing. and all you eat is just a bunch of bananas, right? That's about 20 liters of water, 30 liters of water in the form of bananas. And starch, if you break down a banana into its nutrients and its components, you can get the same components of starch, of vitamins and minerals, and of water without having to pour all that water into irrigation. You can do that with things like sweet potato. You can do that with tomatoes, right? You can get all the potassium, magnesium with leafy greens with about 1/80th, that is 80 times less water than what normal people are giving banana plantations out here in Andhra and Telangana, right? And even in Karnataka, one of my students trying to set up a farm there. My student's name is Tehzeeb, and his neighbor is growing bananas there in Karnataka, South Karnataka, and they have a drip irrigation system, and the irrigation runs for 8 hours a day. 8 hours of drip irrigation a day for a banana plant. For what output? What is the amount of food we are getting for all that water? Very little. Unless you are in a water abundant system, you really don't want that kind of a system, right? So you can grow organic, but let's make sure that you are not destroying yourself or the others in the process. The next thing is, what kind of soil fertility do you need for your bananas? One, right now, because we are using fossil fuels, and we are the government is providing my money as a subsidy to the pesticide and fertilizer companies. We are getting cheap fertilizers, right? Actually, the fertilizers cost a lot, and the pesticides cost a lot in rupees. For every rupee a farmer pays, about 13.5 rupees the Indian government is paying for fertilizers, and about 10.5 rupees of that are going out of India. That's one problem. The other problem is the production, maintenance, transportation, and dumping of all that fertilizers. The distribution of fertilizers to the farmers is taking up a lot of petrol and causing a lot of pollution. The next problem is the pesticides and fertilizers contaminating soil, washing down into lakes and then into the ocean, and killing off fish, killing off ecosystems. So we are, just because it is easy, we think it is cheap, we think humankind are buying pesticides and fertilizers from outside, inorganic synthetic fertilizers. When you actually look at it, there has never been a productive result from use of fertilizers. No. This is another question I would like to take the opportunity to answer here. There has never been, in the history of humankind, never, ever, ever, right, any one single time where inorganic farming has been more productive than organic. Do you guys know that? Not once has it been shown, proven that inorganic is more productive than organic. Never. You can go read up all the studies you want. What they do is, they take 10 corn plants in 2 containers, or say half an acre. On one they put pesticides and fertilizers, on another they don't put pesticides and fertilizers, and they count how much corn they get. And they say, oh, I'm getting more corn here. Right? You are not getting more corn there. We have to look at this completely, right? You spent so much money to make those pesticides and fertilizers, and about 800 to 900 people worked on the fertilizers to get the fertilizers to your place, and all you got are little corn, and you're saying you're productive. You see, when we look at it with any sensible mind, pesticides and fertilizers have not ever been productive, even in comparison with organic or natural production. An organic farmer, for example, say with chicken, I don't want to use the cow analogy yet. Chicken, in the process of making his own fertilizer through chicken manure, he gets eggs and meat, right? And by applying that fertilizer, he improves the soil and he gets some yield, and all that material, the rest of the material, goes back to chicken or some other system, and fertility loops around, and it's a direct gain in every step of organic production, of natural production, when done correctly, not without design. When you do it by design, when you do it sensibly, we create food or we create resources. In every step of the way for synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, we consume energy more than we produce. So there has chemical, organic, inorganic systems have never been even comparably productive to organic systems, right? Don't fall for the trick where it's a magic trick. They say, okay, there's an acre of corn, you put pesticide, you get more. You put fertilizer, you get more. No, that's not what we are doing here. To get that, as a country, as humanity, as part of this nature, we are expending more energy. It's a loss-making mechanism, right? Keep that in mind. When anybody wants to debate you, right? I'll take questions on this if you have afterwards. Now, getting back to this, if you are an organic farmer, then we are going to ask you, okay, do you want to grow bananas? Do you have a soil fertility for it? If not, what's the best way to get fertility? And you know what eventually happens? Eventually, we rather look at the system and say, okay, what's the best thing that grows here that's needed by people? What's the most valuable thing that this land can offer me, rather than me fixating on my mind for a particular crop for my land? Because it takes more energy to force nature to do something than use what it does. For example, my farm has a particular kind of a soil where, when I look at the weeds are of the Abel Moshes family, the okra family, the bhindi family. So the moment I stick in a few bhindi seeds, the land is ready to receive them. The land is ready to give me an abundant harvest. My bhindi plants shot up to 10 feet high, and they are still produced. They have dropped all their leaves. We thought the plants were dead, and now they are putting out new leaves 6 months now. 6 months on the land, and a third crop of bhindi is coming out from those plants. Native, non-hybrid seeds, non-GMO seeds. So my land can provide a lot of okra, a lot of brinjals, right? I can work on a small piece of my land to change that system a little bit to provide me bananas without using too much water, to provide me coconuts. I can design stuff to provide, without too much work, without too much effort. We can set up systems that provide all our needs. And all we are saying is, it's not is ZBNF better or permaculture better. That discussion is only possible when someone does not understand permaculture. We can give you the right way to think about whether to do, how to do, where to do ZBNF, or organic or biodynamic, etc. We are about earth care and people care and return of surplus, and any system that helps in those three ethics fits into permaculture, right? Last topic I want to discuss before we move on is, imagine all the farms around the country, if they turn into organic, what happens? What's the population of Hyderabad? So it's in millions, right? Millions of people here in Hyderabad, including me and my family. The farms will produce great produce and they transport it here. Let's suppose somehow we transport them without the use of fossil fuels. Right now, it's petrol, right? We burn petrol to get your tomatoes. That's not a very clever thing to do for humans, but we burn petrol to get our tomatoes, and then we eat, and the fertility is locked up in the septic tanks here. And imagine million people doing that every meal of a year, morning, afternoon, evening, and then snacks, and then a burger in a joint or whatever. Farms can produce that for a certain amount of time till they start running out of the fertility, the elements, the minerals. What happens to the zinc? Nowadays, no rice farm will grow rice. No paddy will not be produced unless zinc is put on the fields. Because all the zinc, where is it? It's in my septic tank. It's in your septic tank in the cities, right? 26% of the people live in cities, and we are accumulating a lot of nutrition in our septic tanks, right? Let's say what happens after septic tanks? This tanker comes, it clears off the septic tank. That is to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years worth of nutrition, goes into a canal and dumps all of that out there. That's concentrated nutrition. Concentrated any mineral is poisonous for nature, right? Concentrated calcium is bad. Concentrated cow manure is bad. Cow is god and all that, right? Cow manure is good and all that. We get it, but only in appropriate amounts. You pile, for example, cow manure 3 feet high and leave it there for a few days. Afterwards, if you do that over and over again for a year, nothing grows there until all that excess nitrogen is left out. Even the best thing can be a pollution, in a bad scenario. So all the septic nutrition, when dumped out there, is becoming pollution. Is causing diseases. Is killing off ecosystems without properly returning it. Now, what is the solution here? Obviously, organic farming in general is one part of the solution. Gardening is another, right? We need both sides of the equation. We need to start producing as much as possible where we are, rotating, cycling nutrients as much as possible. And then we need to start getting from farms in a sustainable way. And in this process, we have to build up ecosystems. Can we do that? Is it really possible to do all of this? Is the question. Is it possible to ever get into sustainability, ever get into abundance with the kind of population numbers we have? Is it possible to do this ethically? Or is humankind finished? We cannot revert back. Are we at that stage? We are pretty much at the pinnacle of how destructive we can be without using nuclear bombs. But permaculture provides a way to design stuff, that is to think of stuff, so that we can reverse all of this and move into abundance. And it is possible. And we have done it. I have done it. I have taught it. I have experienced it. And many of my students have experienced it. So much so that we are pretty much, as of now, full time into spreading the word, into teaching guidance, setting up projects. The way we work is we get onto our own gardens, do tons of experimentation, our own farms, do tons of experimentation, try to produce as much as we can for ourselves, and beyond that, we go to people. We do this for a consultancy as an earning mechanism. We do charge for design, we do charge for our teaching, and we design farms and we design houses. Right now, for example, there is a project that's coming up in Hyderabad itself, where we are trying to redesign a house, urban house, to be more permaculture-esque, right? Set up gardens, set up energy systems. We're going to look at energy systems of the house. We're going to look at the outputs of a house. We are going to look at the age of the people living there and their needs and what they need to grow, and design the system so that they are not a burden on the planet Earth, right? And I am going to end my talk here with one last example. Before we go into Q&A. That is, when you in Indian mythology, Lord Krishna is supposed to have come here. A specific word is used, that is bhubharam, that is overweight on the earth, right? He came to clear that off. A lot of people were a burden on the earth, and so the Lord came, first of all, in the form of Krishna and in the form of Parashurama, and cleared some of them. Then as Rama, and cleared some of them. But in Krishna, they say Lord Krishna, he came to take the burden off. And that, one thing is to look at it historically, from people point of view. But one thing I can tell you, if we don't change the way we live, we definitely are a burden on the earth. We don't produce more than we consume. And imagine a company where everybody takes a salary more than the company makes. We are doing that with the earth, and whether Lord Krishna appears directly or not, Mother Earth is going to make sure that we go extinct, right? That's the only way systems work. When any organism eats all of its sources, the organism itself goes extinct. The point of permaculture is not to be a burden, but a boon, for the earth and for everybody around you. And this talk is to share this stuff with you, and then we are going to talk. This is an open talk, right? I just talked openly what I felt. Now we take question answers, and we are going to go into a lot of discussion mode. Sorry for keeping this more of a monologue so far. That's because I know some of you guys on chat are pretty fresh to permaculture. There are upcoming doctors possibly there. There are software engineers there. People who are trying to get into this. There are people who are into this to learn about gardening. And gardening is a part of permaculture, but not permaculture. So I want to clear the water away, clear the water, make it clear, and then we jump on into question and answers. Thank you for patiently listening to my voice. Hope you enjoyed it, what I spoke. Let's get into questions. Questions, please, Sai. If I see them. Oh yeah. Yeah. First of all, Haribabu Kotaru, Haribabu Annaya has asked a question. Does permaculture is this thing in history? Is permaculture something new in history, or did the ancient people do something like this? I would say it's pretty new. It is a result of progress of humankind. Although all sustainable systems resembled permaculture, most tribal systems resembled a sustainable ethical living system. What permaculture is taking things from that, from the wisdom of those ancient traditions and putting it in a modern context with scientific understanding. We are not looking to go back to the Stone Age. That's not what we are trying to do. We are not talking of going back. We have made amazing strides in technology, amazing strides in sciences. People used to die of common cold just a couple of 100 years ago. Imagine your child getting cold and dying. Now hardly anyone dies of cold, right? We have done good stuff on this planet. We have come a long way, but now we have to reinterpret those essential systems and apply them to the modern time, and permaculture does exactly that. It's although there is nothing particularly new in permaculture in terms of its aspects. For example, growing food sustainably is not new, but thinking in a systemic way about it, in a scientific way. For example, we look at carbon nitrogen ratios in our soil. We look at biology through microscopes. We are going to look at the water cycle. We are going to calculate the catchments. We use scientific tools to maximize the productivity and limit the footprint of human beings, the area we have to use for our survival, and we can do a cooperation with other things. And this is a pretty new thing. Being able to see whether you are good or bad in number of kilograms of carbon, of pollution you produce, or of energy you produce is a pretty neat and new thing. Okay, the next question. Is the problem created by mind? That's a very philosophical question. Is this problem of the way we live in the world something created by the mind, by the ignorance of people? The strange thing is that for most of us, it's a cyclical thing, right? Our surroundings influence the way we think. I say Nimbuda or lemon, everybody's mouth waters, right? Your mind was not thinking of lemon till I said that, right? Our mind does not create on its own. It's a cyclical thing, right? We do things, we see things, we think things, we do things, we see things, we think things, and it's a cyclic thing, both ways, right? And to really look at it as in separate scenarios is not really appropriate. It doesn't really help that much. You have to look at it holistically, and it is a mind thing, it is a senses thing, it's a habit thing, it's an information thing, it's a population thing, but mind is an integral part in repair also. That's why ethics are critical if we have to go forward. So permaculture is not just a design system, it's an ethical design system, and that means mind. Permaculture provides one of the best ways to cultivate the mind in the right way. Pradeep Kumar Guduru, don't you think our forefathers did the same? Pradeep Kumar Garu, no, they have not done the same. It is very tempting to somehow glorify the past of human beings, past of us, of our culture, and I am one of the biggest defenders of traditional cultures you can find on the planet. I really appreciate a lot of things our ancients did, but not all of them. All of the things that they did were very good. There was Sati Sahagamana, right? People were burnt. We have to remember that there was untouchability, and similarly, there have been some abysmal practices in agriculture, in animal husbandry. Some of the times it was basically a lack of understanding, a lack of information. How old do you think potato is in India? We did not have potato, we did not have tomato. Even 100 years ago, 150 years ago, the way we were practicing agriculture was alright. It was alright because populations were low. If you go back and look at some of the records, you will see people complaining that their farms have become infertile by agriculture. And they have, the king, for example, Ramaraya of Vijayanagara Empire allots fresh new swath of forest to be cut down for a few villages to resettle, because the agricultural fields have lost their fertility. In permaculture, you will never lose fertility, right? It's a brand new thing, and credit is where credit is due. And Bill Mollison has to be credited as somebody who has put together a system. He himself says he has not invented it. He says he has learned from all the traditional systems and put it together based on ecological understanding, right? Permaculture is definitely better than most of the traditional systems. You can't apply traditional systems in modern scenarios. If we are producing the way we did, we can't survive. The traditional systems were systems for that time and that place. Many times they were not sustainable. However, the cow integration, for example, integration of domestic animals, cows in India, chicken in other countries, goats in other countries, sheep in other countries, pigs in other countries, integrating animal systems into the cycle of agriculture was a very clever move. And that is something modern agriculture is not doing. And in that way, the ancients were better, the traditional forefathers were better in some ways than conventional agriculture. But permaculture gives you a context which is not really done by our forefathers, because they were not in our scenario, they were not in our shoes, they were in a completely different world, and some of them did appropriate things for their scenario. They did not have highways, did they? They did not have lorries to transport food. That's what happens. If you grow more food than you can consume, you will have a lot of trouble in the ancient world. Nobody will take it, right? Your village, some guys will take it, but what do you do with the rest? Do you really want to work your time all the time to create so much food? No. People used to only produce that much food that they needed because there was no market system. Now it's a matter of how many hundreds of bags you produce. So now if you can't eat it, you can export it, you can throw it at other people. and there are people who are hungry who will take it up. Imagine what happened with the whole Adilabad issue, with the 2 rupees rice issue. Rice was transported from Godavari districts and Krishna district to Adilabad and Karimnagar. Rice was transported to those places to be sold at 2 rupees a bag. And 2 rupees per bag of rice was cheaper than growing millets. So a lot of farmers who used to live beautifully in Adilabad and other places on millet simply stopped growing millet because we have this transportation now, right? So that was not the scenario our ancients were in, our forefathers were in. They were in a completely different world and they were doing what they can, what they could. Not that they were bad people, but if you just translate that and put it in a modern context, it doesn't work. For example, consider milk. How consider potatoes, 58 lakh thousands tons, right? 58 lakh tons, 58 lakh thousand kgs were wasted in India in 2009 alone. 58 lakh tons of potatoes. And potatoes are not like tomatoes or green leaves, they last a long time, and still they were wasted in India. That was a problem the ancient would not understand. That would probably be the biggest figure of potatoes he has ever heard. Our forefathers did not have those kind of problems, right? They had limits on how much they could grow on a land based on the technology. A cow could plow only, a buffalo or a bull can plow only a certain amount of land. A farmer or a collection of farmers in a village using hand tools can only harvest a particular sized area. And you know what it did? People starved. Hundreds of people died. Thousands of people died when there were no rains, right? We can avoid most of that if only we set up gardens now, right? If we try to imitate them, we are going to be in soup. Most of us have to become farmers then, and then nobody will be there to research medicine or nurses or doctors or ambulance people and all the other rest of the fields, arts, sciences. Everything will come to a stop. At least not as vigorously as we are doing it now. So it's a different ball game, different thing. So it's not what our ancients did, not at all. It is something we have to do. It's something we also have not done. It's something we have to do. And permaculture learns from traditional systems. We take appropriate things from the traditional systems and apply it to our context. That's the difference there. The next question is by Karthik Narendra. May I ask how tribal population around the world managed to limit their population, or did they do it actually? It's a very good question. It changes from the geographical locations. For example, in India, progeny is seen as one of the biggest wealths you can have, and the traditional system says get as many kids as you can. Same thing with any militaristic or agricultural country, civilization. But the moment you look into tribes, what starts happening is that to survive, the input in terms of food or requirements usually match the output of people. They did not have a lot of surplus, and there was a lot of infanticide. A lot of kids died, and they still do in tribes due to diseases, due to various things. Wild animals, snakes, scorpions, mosquitoes. Right? I am not worried of lions, tigers, wolves, or anything because I'm a modern person living in an apartment. But the tribals had those issues, and there were natural limits to population. That's one of the ways. The other ways tribes had were cultural things. They had particular seasons in which many tribes have this. They have particular seasons in which they would try for reproduction. Right now, human being does not have a season of reproduction. We go at it all the time, and every day people are born, and we are one of after virus and microorganisms, humans are the only thing that seems to do that. reproduce all the time. So tribals had limits on such things, and that naturally kept their populations in check. And the other thing is that a human baby is not an easy thing, right? If you have two babies, as a woman or as a man, suppose there's a couple, suppose there is me and my wife, we have 4 kids. One guy will be here, I'll be carrying one guy, the other guy will be probably on my shoulders. You think I can farm or hunt? I can't leave him behind. They are all in front. So usually it's like a period of sitting home taking care of unproductive elements. You have to take care of your kids, and during that time you can't do much else. And tribes seriously take that. Now if everybody gets a child in the village will starve. The village will starve. So people had family systems set up to kind of control this. That's how tribes and good civilizations manage to control their populations and manage their populations very beautifully. India had managed populations by the time Buddha was around, that is 7th century BC. There are records of this, how they did it and why they did it. A beautiful perspective is given in some of the ancient literature, especially in the oral traditions, where moon, sun and stars were used to guide reproductive cycles. But that's for a different video. The next question here is what is that? From Facebook, Sandeep Sonti is asking, one problem with most of us is that we don't realize any problem until it hits us hard, which is very, very true. Which is extremely true, right? I go to Godavari district and try to talk permaculture with farmers there. They talk in terms of bags. I get 40 bags of rice. Will your system get 40 bags of rice? Those guys are, are not ready to listen, right? You are pretty clear for you. Not too clear if you are looking at it on a mobile especially. But this is my notes of what I teach in my introduction to permaculture course. Right? You start here in the middle with definitions and all that, and it's a flow chart. So till the system starts, let me read this out to you. We're going to talk just like we did about past, present and future. Then we will talk of in a PDC survival as part of nature. And then we talk how economics is out of touch with reality, out of scale, it is fragmented and without social responsibility. And from there, we break down stuff into real economics. We go off into pretty much what we spoke, and we end up with the importance of local production, from changing ourselves from producers to consumers and various ways of doing it. Then we are going to talk of sustainability and what it means, resilience and what it means, and that would be the day. And then we go into permaculture principles from there. Now I think it is live here.
It's live here, people.
Oh yeah, sorry about that, guys. You know what? After talking about sustainability for so long, I forgot that a laptop is not a sustainable system, right?
Don't get anyone by don't get charged.
Yeah, I did not put the charger in, and it suddenly went to sleep mode. Right. Sorry about that. It's been a long time since I've done a live chat on YouTube, like 3-4 years now. So I don't. I'm kind of out of sync. Should be good from next week on. Now, there's a question from Sandeep Sonte saying one problem with us is that most of us don't realize that any problem until it hits us hard, and that is visible. But humans have this tendency of being able to change their own mindset, their own ways of thinking, and we do that through information and information anchoring. We remember stuff that we either like or dislike, right? If you look back at your life, it is full of things that you liked or disliked. All the rest of the details are kind of gone. The mind will remember only those things that it either likes or dislikes, strong likes and strong dislikes. If we are able to communicate strongly enough, with enough confidence, about the positive aspects and the negative aspects appropriately to a lot of people are willing to give it a shot. That's what I have found out. There have been 2 people actually who said we are not interested in that, and both of them who said they were not interested, one of them was a student in a prestigious engineering college, and that guy was aiming very high on the corporate ladder. That was one guy said, this is not for me, bro. The other person who said this is not interested was a pro GMO fellow, right? Who is supposed to be educated, which I seriously doubt. Now, other than that, everybody, when you explain it to them with heart, they are going to think about this. Next question: can we think of alternative ways to sensitize people, not in small numbers, but like in masses? Yes, we can. And one of the best ways to do that is to catch people early. We have to get this education out into schools, and we have to get people young, right? There are 6 or 7 things here. Right now, what we are doing in permaculture is, as I told you, is that we do a lot of projects and consultancies and we charge for it. And right now, the amount of money we are making on it is not really the kind of corporate money that we would be making if we were in that world. I was an animator before I came into this. I would have been, my friends, my colleagues are making about 5 lakhs a month now, working in top studios. 4 to 5 lakhs a month. They are taking packages of 80 lakhs a year, 90 lakhs a year packages. So I'm definitely not in this for money, but if I have to make money, this will be the way I will make money. This permaculture is the way in which money can be and should be made. It's an ethical way of living and something close to my heart. But there is a particular reason why I'm charging for this scenario. That is because if I start teaching free, I can start teaching free. I can design stuff for free. It doesn't affect my economics that much, because I have other modes of earning money. I have a farm, for example, to take care of myself and all my friends, right? I can take care of 30 families without ever charging a dime. I can do that. Permaculture gave me the power to do it. But the more of us who are advantaged do this for free, it stops being appealing to young people as a lifestyle. We are what, 100 crore people in India, and what we need is roughly one person can design about 10 to 20 projects a year max, right? How many designers do you think we need, and how many days of the year they need to work? we need tons of designers, and for them to be able to do that, it must be a career option. And to promote that, to make it a viable option to live, we charge for our classes. We don't actually need that money, but we do charge for our classes. And because some of my friends spend so much time teaching, we are not doing other stuff, and so we kind of use that money well. But that is what I want others to do. We are trying to live based on the money we make out of permaculture, and if we can do it, we can teach others to do it, and it is going to be an ethical living stream, and that will provide a lot of impetus for getting more people into spreading the word about this. So that is one more way in which we should do this. Schools are one way we should do this. Bill Mollison wanted to set up a TV channel for this stuff. YouTube and mass media is one more, but the most powerful one is word of mouth, right? One thing I find we can all improve, especially those in my Facebook friends list. Hello, wherever you are. If you know, I see tons of likes for my posts and for posts of Sai, but like 300 people liked your post on permaculture, there are 20 shares, right? That's not how we are going to spread permaculture, people, right? And I don't know whether some of my own very close friends here, this is not a comment about only Facebook friends, but this is about live friends that I have that are on Facebook. Please remember that you are not Shah Rukh Khan or Narendra Modi. I'm talking of people, my neighbors. You click share, it is going to be shared on your wall, and all you have are 10 friends. Right? You are a lonely person if you are living in Nagol. These are not all your other great people on Facebook. I'm talking of Nagol people, particularly here, and my classmates. You are not like Shah Rukh Khan. You don't have millions of followers, right? Share it on other groups. Okay, guys. Right, like some of my other friends are doing here, not just my posts, but anything you find interesting about permaculture, sustainability, ethics, share it on groups, share it not just on your walls, but share it on other groups. So those are the little tricks and tips we need to use to spread this word wide. Now take right, don't get hurt. Just giving you a permaculture strategy to spread the word. Next question. uh, how you can educate more people beyond a few courses once or twice a year? Once or twice a year, whatever happens in a PDC is primarily for designers, that is, and teachers. That's more of a teacher's course or a designer's course, a PDC, or people who really want to shift, jump the ship from normal to this. Most people are not ready for that. The way you can educate people is through gardens, setting up rooftop gardens. That's why we don't charge for our gardening classes called Gather to Garden. We do it for free. Whenever we get a chance, we do teach gardening classes. And gardening is one way where you start introducing people to natural systems in a very sustainable way. We can educate people more than twice a year by conducting what we call workshops, and I keep doing that very regularly whenever I can. That is, you don't really need to know all the stuff we talk in a PDC if you are a farmer, if you just want to work on your farm, right? You need all the information you can get, and you need to understand the basics of how to think about it, and we can provide that in about a week. And we need more teachers doing this, more teachers who can conduct workshops. That's why I love doing PDCs, because that really equips the students to be able to communicate permaculture to other people in other contexts. So actually the few courses once or twice a year are the first step in that. It's like, if I want to go to Delhi from Hyderabad, I need a train ticket or a flight ticket. But to get to the airport, I need my auto rickshaw or a bus, right? It's the first step. And these courses are the first step. The next question. with the rate of natural ecosystem destruction that is happening, to what scale is the practice of PC needed by all of us so that we can reverse the tipping point? Brilliant question there, simple guy. Generally, it is the 17% mark that we need to hit before majority of the people, before we call it mainstream. 17% of the population, when they apply permaculture to their lives, whether they live in a city or on farms, right? I've been looking at that Facebook live feed, so I look at this also for some time now, like this, okay, I'm looking at you wherever you are, simple guy, right? I am watching you. Yeah, oh, you're here. I'm looking at you. If 17% of the population adapt to this lifestyle or adopt this philosophy, whichever English word you want to use, we are pretty much safe. We are on the right track. The sooner the better. The numbers are alarming. At the same time, the number of people interested in this has been growing tremendously around the world. A few years ago, like in 1980, 4 decades ago, there were 30 permaculturists in the world. Now there are 3 million of us, right? And you are part of that now, if you start taking this into consideration. So we can tip this into a positive way. Bill Mollison used to say one thing. A little, he believed a lot in the concept of a little being done by everybody, making a massive change. That's one way we can do it. And gardens are brilliant for that. Gardens are one of the most efficient ways we can change the world. Setting up a garden will reduce, a vegetable garden, not an ornamental one, a sustainable vegetable garden in India. You do that, you are saving, it's equivalent to planting an acre of forest. How about that for an equation? You save so much carbon emissions, you reduce so much carbon emissions that it's equivalent of planting 1 acre of a forest by having a good garden that supplies 60 to 80% of your veggies. That's one way you can contribute. That's one way we can shift the tipping point. Simple guy asks another 2 questions. One is, how can I get PC in a cold country like Canada? The more difficult the scenario, the more advantage you get from permaculture. For example, in cold climates, one of the biggest things you have an issue with is year-round production. You have a very short growing season there, and Canada, thank you guys for sending us all your pigeon pea, right? You guys have been amazing. You have grown kandulu, and we Indians and Pakistanis ate pigeon pea from Canada, where it doesn't even grow all year round. I mean, India doesn't grow its own pigeon pea, and that irks me. And Canada, you guys got a lot of our money now, right? You gave us pigeon pea and you took a lot of our money. That aside, the big problem you guys have is cold. Protecting from cold takes a lot of energy. As much of energy that you people use in colder climates for agriculture, pretty much the same amount goes into the energy systems, heating, cooling, etc. And with simple modifications, you can reduce your energy bill to very minimal levels. There's a guy called Paul Wheaton, Paul. Sai, can you type that in the chat?
Yeah.
Right. Paul Wheaton is right now in Minnesota, right? In Minnesota or Missouri, right? And that guy is in a cold climate, and he is doing great stuff with permaculture, with energy systems, with food systems. There's a lot of cold climate work that has happened in permaculture. Ways in which to build houses, ways in which alternative technologies, things like Kakelhofen, like Kang, things like rocket stoves. Montana. It is in Montana, right? Yeah, Missouri. And stoves, changing the way your house is. Passive heating systems. Appropriately setting up forest systems around your house. In fact, we as humanity will benefit a lot the more cold country people adopt permaculture, the faster we do it, because the gains are much more in colder climates. um, and there's a lot of, you just have to go on YouTube and hit cold climate permaculture, and you're going to get great talks on this. The second question is, especially in a closed and shared place like an apartment, that gives even more advantages. The more people you have stacked in a smaller place, the more efficiently you can heat or cool that system. And imagine this: if I think you are talking from Canada. You said you are talking from Canada. Uh, in your apartment, does everybody drive to the mall? Think about that. If everybody is driving on snow, right? You guys have snow where you need another automobile to clean your roads for you to go to malls, and then everybody goes to a mall to get their stuff or goes to the grocery. Maybe you can come to an understanding, and one guy goes and brings all the groceries for the entire apartment. You cut down on 6 more automobiles. Uh, Simple things like that. Think about that, right? The next question, Anil Kumar, who is a friend with friend of Srikanth. We are taking up projects and there will be a charge around it. Can you please talk details on it? Okay. The cost of permaculture design, we calculate it based on two things, based on the amount of work we have to put in. So usually I, as a designer, if the land is below 5 acres, I charge about 20,000 rupees an acre. And if it is above 5 acres, how many, and below 10 acres, I charge 15,000. It's if above 10 acres, I charge 10,000 per acre to design. That's my charge. I take about a month and a half a time it takes for me to really design. And yeah, I think it is if you want more details, Srikanth can tell you. We need a contour map. We are going to sit with you for 3 or 4 sittings, educating the client on how to do this. We are going to visit your farm a couple of times. It really depends on the climate you are in, things like that, and the complexity of design that's required. That's how much I charge. That's how much I request. Some of my friends charge according to the way they want to charge, and that's how it is. Does permaculture fill the gap between population and productivity, or is it just ecosystem and human care? Asked Haribabu, Haribabanaya, and I think what he's asking is whether permaculture can really produce enough for the population. Using permaculture techniques, in the last calculation, we can feed the world, the population that we have, from 20% of the land of what is being in agriculture right now. We can give back 80% to nature and sustainably, limitedly harvest from that, like fruits or some hunting or medicines from the forest sustainably. But we can give 80% of the agricultural land, arable land, back to nature, and we can still produce all the food, fiber, and fuel requirements of humankind if we utilize natural ecosystem functions. But that ratio changes from climate to climate. You are more in tropics, I think we can do it quite easily. Productivity is possible. We can feed 7 times the population of the earth right now with the same amount of land and water use that we have. So food security is more of an issue of distribution, not of production. And genetically modified food, just an off-topic segue here, is a solution to production, not to distribution. It's an unwanted technology, unneeded technology, and unproven technology. Now let's get back to another question. Paratpar Rao Janalagada. Why is chemical fertilizer not good, while it is also extracted from nature? That's a wonderful question, and Thank you for asking that, Parat Parrao garu. We categorize anything as good or bad based on the output it gives. And chemical fertilizers, when put on the farms, the process that is needed to manufacture it release a lot of pollution into the world, which cannot be absorbed by other systems in nature. It takes a lot more energy to make chemical fertilizers. The next thing is to make them tasty enough for plants. Plants do not take most of the chemical fertilizers. They have to be made soluble. And you have to pretty much force the plant to drink your fertilizers. And for that, you have to add them with water, with a lot of irrigation required. Whereas naturally, plants just require appropriate levels of moisture to get their nutrients. Chemical fertilizers need water to get it into plants. So water usage is usually about 8 to 10 times higher if you have to use chemical fertilizers than a natural fertilizer, than with the natural system. So it takes a lot of use of water. The next problem with it is that, for example, nitrogen, there are plants that love nitrogen and there are plants that can survive without nitrogen. Let me explain this a bit more clearly here. If you have a piece of land that does not have enough nitrogen, only certain types of plants can survive. Only plants that make their own nitrogen can survive, right? If you have a city and we lost all food supply, only people who can grow their own food can survive, right? In a similar way, in a nitrogen deficient piece of land, only plants that can fix their own nitrogen can survive. But when there is oversupply of nitrogen, what starts happening is that there are plants that will take up that nitrogen and they start arriving and they start thriving. So it's the response to nitrogen will be very different. Now when you put chemical fertilizers on land, only part of them are absorbed by soil. Much of the rest goes into either the aquifers or flows off into lakes. All lakes and ponds and the ocean, the entire world is a nicely self-managing cycle, but what we are giving is an oversupply of a resource, and that creates a lot of weeds, clogs up rivers, kills fishes, kills a lot of biological systems that clean up water before it enters into the ocean. So fertilizers are an issue in production, and when unused, then when you talk about the piece of land itself, suppose I have 1,000 tons of rice with me, paddy. I have say 10,000 bags of rice. What starts happening if I start giving it away free in my city? All the people who are working hard to supply rice are going to go bankrupt because their product is no longer needed, right? That's pretty much what Reliance does as a business strategy, a parasitic strategy. But that's similar thing happens when you artificially provide nitrogen into the soil. The bacteria that are needed to produce nitrogen are fed by plants. The fertility in the soil is given by plants, is maintained by plants. But when you provide them with artificial nitrogen, the plants do not give back sugars to maintain the soil biology. So the bacteria that are required to maintain those fertility levels, nitrogen is just one example here, phosphorus is another. The bacteria or the fungi that produce that material for plants are no longer needed. They lost their jobs, so they die off. So your soil stops becoming self-sufficient, self-regulating, and starts becoming addicted to fertilizers. And down the line, you stop fertilizers, it stops producing. So when used by plants also, it's a problem. So on all three levels, chemical fertilizers are a big problem. During production, during distribution, they are polluting. During usage by plants and on land, they are a problem. And when unused, they wash off into streams and they are a problem. So that's why chemical fertilizers are not good, even though they are a part of the whole planet Earth. They are the same materials of planet Earth. Hope I answered your question. Next question by Parat Parrao garu is, what is the permaculture solution for scarcity of water in a farm? Now that's a beautiful question. Scarcity of water happens uh, in essentially 4 different scenarios. One is you have less amount of rainfall. Uh, that's the most obvious one. That's one kind of scarcity of water. The second side, the second angle of it, you are far away from a source, a secondary source of water like a lake or a river. The third issue, your soil does not hold enough moisture. That's the third problem with water. The fourth problem of scarcity of water in terms of farms here is that you have planted the wrong type of plant there. That is, you have planted something that requires more water than what is available. So these are the only 4 possible scenarios where water scarcity is an issue. When there is less amount of rain, you have a couple of choices here. Say for a place like Anantapur, where in a couple of mandals, the rainfall is as low as 50 mm average rainfall. What you can do is, obviously, you need a larger catchment to get water to focus into a small area. In Israel, they do this. In Rajasthan, traditionally they did this. They had huge systems of water rainwater harvesting features, collecting all the water in Rajasthan and putting it into tankas or tanks around Jaipur or Jodhpur and all those places, from where the water can be used. So you need a larger catchment of water focused onto a smaller area, even on a farm. That's one way we can approach this. For example, you are living in Anantapur on the farm, suppose. Then the most critical element is water for drinking and water for your garden. So what we try to do is capture a lot of water and try to get it to your garden as much as possible, and we store the water. The second way in which you can think of a solution to the water problem is to increase the. So first thing is the nature of utilization of water. That is, a lot of water for specific uses or little water for entire farm. That is, you only plant dryland crops, etc., which is possible. That's one way, one part of thinking of water. The second part of thinking of water is to increase what is called effective rainfall. That is, doesn't matter how much rainfall you have, what matters is how much gets into your soil and available to your plants. And when soil biology is good, when you build up enough soil biology, when you build up depth of soil and carbon matter in your soil, an acre of soil on 600 mm of rainfall can capture 2.5 megaliters of water. 2.5 megaliters of water. That's enough for a good rain-fed crop. If you have good soil, almost 85 to 90% of arable area in India can be completely rain-fed and completely productive. The other way to look at it is to set up biological storages. What is a forest? A forest is an above land lake. All living systems are 70% water, and by having a forest kind of a system established, you hold all that water in living systems, and whenever wind or other things blow over it, the plants release a lot of moisture. You can set up forest around a piece of land, and that reduces water load by providing extra moisture through wind and also providing anti-evaporation by providing a windbreak. You can reduce the water requirement by up to 50% to 80% if you have a good windbreak or a microclimate managed. So that's another option. We set up those things. Soil is one, or other biological storage is another. Then it is once the soil equation is solved, what we are going to look at, the last one, is whether we are planting or whether we are approaching this design in a proper way. What nature shows us is that various areas are naturally favorable to some sort of ecosystem. Some lands are very good, are naturally adapted to a grassland kind of an ecosystem rather than a forest kind of an ecosystem, right? Some places are more of a forest type of an ecosystem naturally than a grassland, or a combination of those two. So there are all these various types of ecosystems we have. For example, a forest of Vizag is very different from a forest of Gulbarga. This is a scrubland forest, semi-arid dryland forest, and that is a wetland forest we have in the high rainfall areas of Vizag. You want to replicate that forest here, you are going to end up with a deficit of water. You can have scrubland forest productivity designed for these areas, right? It's a combination of all these that provides a solution for scarcity of water on a farm. We are wasting a lot of water. Every time there's a rain, not all of it is soaked on pretty much any farm I have seen before design. Most of the water just runs off, even in Anantapur, particularly in dry lands, because the soil is not conducive to immediately absorb rain when it is very hot and dry. So we can improve the water scenario on a farm very comfortably and easily, and very confidently by applying the design thinking to it. So for example, on one of the projects, what we thought of doing is concentrate a lot of water into one place to build up a real productive small quarter-acre food forest that supplies food for the person living on the farm, whereas the rest of the farm is a scrubland forest and a grassland. So you can manipulate by design and by earthworks, appropriate earthworks. We can really use the water. Let me put this in another way, right? It's not the scarcity of water that's an issue, it's the utilization of water that's an issue, right? In the natural world, let's look at the engineering world. How does a steam engine work? By using steam, a piston is moved, right? And that movement is used to move the machine called a train, or in the case of internal combustion engines, what we do is we take one movement and use it to generate work, right? In the world, sun moves, wind moves, and water moves. These three will always move on the earth. Definitely. Animals move on a very slow time period, but earth itself moves. The continents move. The moon moves. And we have got all these mobile elements. If we intercept them appropriately, we can convert them into productivity. We can convert the energies into productivity. So that's what we design with water or sun. And much of the scarcity of water can be alleviated, and the rest of it has to be, we just have to grow what's appropriate on the land. ML Kumari, I think this is Lalita Garu, asking, recently I read about water pollution caused by pharmaceutical and personal care products, and how it has been discovered that a certain species of algae can remove these substances from the water. Is there a specific type of an ecosystem in permaculture that can create a sustainable cycle? That's a very good question. It's called bioremediation, and it's a very active field of study. People, Paul Stamets is researching fungi to bioremediate. There are many biologists who are looking at, for example, sunflower cleans up a lot of petroleum pollution and arsenic, lead and arsenic. They both can be cleaned up through sunflower. Sunflower accumulates that stuff. That is biological remediation. Algae can do that. A lot of water plants can clean up various elements. And the issue is that to clean up anything, the life forms have to take up that pollution, right? For example, a sunflower, if you grow sunflower in an arsenic contaminated field, it will take up the excess arsenic. Now, we are not supposed to eat that directly, that sunflower, because it will have high levels of arsenic, unsafe levels of arsenic. But you can take that sunflower, probably compost it or distribute it wide enough into a forest kind of a scenario. What happens is that arsenic is distributed among so many trees, among so many animals, that it no longer causes a problem. So it has to be that the chain of distribution that is needed. What the problem that is there with water pollution, whether through pharmaceuticals or through fertilizers, is that we are concentrating a lot of elements into one place, right? Why does a drainage smell? Because it has concentrated a lot of material in itself. The soap water goes into the drainage, the wash water goes into the drainage, etc. All of them end up into a drainage, and there is life actively trying to reduce that overabundance. And part of that is what we smell near a drainage. You get all that green algae in a drainage, that's cleaning up. That's a cleaning mechanism right there. And there are water weeds that come. You go to a village in India, wherever there's drainage, you are going to get these particular grasses and particular types of trees. Tutkarra is one, Nachu is another, stuff like that. Tat chetlu are another. All these are bioremediating agents. They are taking out the surplus overabundance of a particular element, but then it has to spread out through other supporting ecosystems for it to actually work. Algae will clean it, or fungi will clean it, mycorrhiza will clean it, or plants will clean it, but we need to have some kind of a distribution mechanism for that accumulated surplus. In permaculture, we can create very good cycles like that. For example, riparian system management is something I specifically teach in my PDCs. Every PDC is going to have a riparian zone section, that is rivers, river and river edge management, and river pollution management, and river ecosystem management. That's very important. Next, Gokul asks, is it safe to use Indian newspapers as mulch in slow compost or just kitchen waste pile? That's a very good question. The ink is going to have lead and other heavy metals in it, and sometimes they will end up in your food, but it is alright to use it as mulch for your trees, because most of those heavy metals end up in the bark of the tree, in the trunk of the tree, and usually most of them don't even get into fruits. So of course, moderation is always better. You don't want a lot of newspaper in your garden or in your compost pile, but everyday newspaper that you read, you can add it to your compost pile. That's pretty much fine, because your compost pile will have other materials in it that are going to distribute those heavy metals away. There are many bacteria that will lock up heavy metals in vermicompost, for instance, and even a slow compost they will develop. But if you really want to be sure about that, after you slow compost it, get it through a Berkeley compost system, an 18-day fast compost system, and usually most of that problem should be taken away. So everybody compost their own newspaper, we are alright, we are safe. If we collect a lot of newspapers in one place and we compost them, we are going to have a concentration of heavy metals. That's a very good question, Gokul. Very good question, Gokulji. It's a lovely question. Then Haribabu Kotharu asks one more question. Is there any village which adopts this permaculture for perfect sustainability? For an example, to propagate this, people are coming together as villages. Haribabu Naya, they are called eco villages or permaculture communes. There is one in one of the best ones is Miliodora in Australia. There's Crystal Waters in other countries. The guys in Pondicherry, the Aravinda Yogi disciples, some of them are trying to get these things into their system. There's a whole community called Village Homes in Davis, California, which has been doing this similar stuff for the last 30 years. In India, it's really easy if to change, because we have not spoiled stuff too much, because we didn't have money to spoil stuff too much. We should have a village. I was trying to set up a village myself. Next, Gokul asks, can human urine make soil too salty? How much is safe considering an Indian cuisine? That's a lovely question. Oh man, thank you for asking that question. There have been this craze of using human urine in some of the gardens, and people were peeing in the same place. And I know they are They are crying now that they can't grow anything there. We do consume a lot of salt, and a good way to think about this is a good soil or a good compost is 25% nitrogen and the rest of it is carbon, right? Uh, so when we make a compost pile, eventually we are going to end up with 25% of nitrogen for carbon, and that's the ratio of a very good compost. And in urine you have so much nitrogen that you need appropriate amount of carbon to lock that up. And one good equation to remember is that 25 is to 1 final result you are going to need more carbon material than nitrogen material. You maintain that ratio uh, in using the human urine as a fertilizer, and you should be fine. You should be pretty fine. Your salts won't get too concentrated that way. That is, for every 25 grams of nitrogen in urine, you need 75 grams of carbon, pure carbon. You maintain that, your salt should not be much of a problem. Next, Anil Kumar asks, can you talk more about classes and course and fee?
We talked about.
I talked about farm design, yeah. Right? I will talk about classes and course and fee again. Then Simple Guy asks, did you as a permaculturist face any political challenges or corporate challenges in terms of roadblocks? Oh yeah, one way we did. People are people, and people are people. I have faced challenges or roadblocks at every level. I'll tell you one very funny force of opposition that I had to face. It's really funny for me because for me permaculture is an extension of my own spiritual values. I had people thinking that I left spirituality and have become a new thing called permaculture, and people thought that permaculture is somehow opposed to spirituality. And there are a few people who are my neighbors, who did not come to my classes because they thought what I'm talking is anti-spiritual. Me being born in that circles, that has excluded a lot of people. A lot of people don't even want to listen to my permaculture because they think I am talking something other than divine grace. So that I have faced some silly challenges like that. I have had some roadblocks, but I generally work outside of the political system. I don't have an organization, an NGO at all for permaculture, so there's nothing anybody can say about what I do. The next thing is I don't have anything to lose in this. So far it was 90-10, 90% very positive. Corporate people loved what I do, what I teach, and political people struggle to get me on their side. For example, Upendra was called by ministers to set up gardens in a particular village, and political people, when you see that you are creating some value for people, what they find is that if it happens through their name, they are going to get more votes. So as long as we prove that we are productive, they are on our side. They want to be in our good eyes. It's rather the reverse, right? I had people introduce me in an NGO as a political personality of a particular political flavor. So it's kind of like that, they are trying to get on our good side. The time has passed where we have to struggle to get in their good grace. That is not the case now. You are a permaculturist. The corporates want you to come there and talk. They want you to participate, and they want you to help them become more sustainable. And there is a lot of interest in corporate employees to do this. By corporate management, there is a lot of interest in this. Jeff Lawton is blazing a trail there, taking up. Governments are asking him and giving him thousands of hectares of land. Yemen has given him some 45,000 hectares of land and asked him to convert it into permaculture, because that's the only way we can go forward. So these days it's if you are a permaculturist, the politicians are knocking on your doors and the corporate is ready there to ring you up. You just have to present yourself. Of course, you sit at home and you just grow a garden, nobody is going to call you because nobody knows you are a permaculturist. If you make enough sound, I made a lot of noise 3 years ago when I had time to do that. Last 1 year I have been at home, take care of my mother and other stuff. But when I made noise, I had more number of projects and more number of calls for talks than I could fill up. Because the interest is there and the need is there and people really find value in this. That's what it is. The next question. If I don't have space to store rainwater, if I dump something like 18 centimeters of rain worth in a patch with all my nutrients, will all my nutrients sink deep and vanish? Yes, they will, Gokul. They are definitely going to go down and they are going to vanish. That's a brilliant question. A lot of people are not thinking about this. And it's brilliant of you to think of this. We don't have a lot of space to store water, but luckily 18 centimeters of worth of rain, if you have it in a day, man, you are having a rainy day. It is a problem, but I am designing a system for my house where I store water along the walls vertically using pipes, 12 mm pipes all around the walls. I'm going to have water and I can harvest, I can store a lot of water. The other way is to slow the water a lot through systems like forests. But you are absolutely true. The current scenario of urban planning, of house planning, is not giving enough space to store water, and if you dump it on a small piece of land, it is going to wash away your nutrients. You have to be careful about that. We have solutions for that. You can safely use that water again and again before you let it out. You can clean that water of nutrient before you let it out. You don't want to soak your garden with it and soak your rainwater through your garden, but you want to go through a different system of cleaning before you allow the water to sink. The sinkholes, what do you call that site? Soak pits, stuff like that near your borewell can be used after you purify the water. There are so many solutions. If you can let me know the climate and the scenario you are in, maybe I can give you a better answer. With that, we have finished all the questions, right? How many marks do I get? Right? We are in a world where kids are brainwashed into getting marks, right? So I have answered your questions now. How many marks do I get? Do I get a pass mark? Like 35 out of 100? Or am I going to get 50? Maybe I am a second class student. Maybe some of you give me 60% and give me first class marks. Or am I getting distinction from anybody? Simple guy gives so many marks that if you divide it by 100, you're going to get the number of sand particles on a beach. Thank you, simple guy. Is it Anant there? Who is this simple guy? Somebody who I know definitely, and who knows my father, and so I get extra marks because of my father, you know. The heritage matters. Jagadish Murari gives 100 marks. Thank you very much. Any other questions or concepts you want me to explain? Yeah, I know you, Anand. I know. When you gave me those marks, I know.
He's have a tag with simple guy.
40%. Haribabu gave me 40% of marks. He is too eager to keep the rest of 60% for himself. That's all right.
This is teacher evaluation.
Yeah. Mohan Krishna asks, how to recover oceans from plastic in a permaculture way? Oh my goodness. That's a very important question, Mohan Krishna. You are from IIT, I think, the same Mohan Krishna, I think. Chinna. If you are the same, hi Chana. If you are not, Namaste Mohan Krishna Garu. The way we can clean oceans is through ecosystems, and there are 6 different ecosystems in an ocean. Six main categories of ecosystems in an ocean. The first is the bottom layer, the muck, the soil layer, the bottom feeders of an ocean. They are very critical in locking up pollution. They lock up a lot of that. The next is the coral reefs, the shallows. Right, the second is the coral reefs, the bottom one, and the shallow ones, shallow ocean, shallow marine environments. These two have very fast cycles of nutrient recycling. Many of that are dying, but we can replant them, just like we can replant forests. With our ingenuity, we can set up systems where we can favor the survivability of those ecosystems much more, and in the process they will lock up most of the plastic. The third important ecosystem are the floaters. These include the fish, the whales, the algae, the bacteria, the fungi, and the little various thousands and millions of insects that are there, that are floating, that are not on the surface, not at the bottom, but at various pressure levels. You can do that. The last thing is you have some physical techniques that you can use. The pressure difference between the surface and the depths of the ocean is very, very high, and you can use that pressure differential. People are doing research on this. We have this equation where volume, pressure, and temperature are in an equation. Can you write that, Mohan Krishna? What is the relationship between pressure, volume, and temperature? Easy. PV is equal to T. What law is that, Sai? Sai, what law is that? Rascal's law. Anyway, pressure and volume, when multiplied together, pressure and volume are proportional to temperature, whatever it is. Using that equation, people are trying to get a difference of osmotic pressures and are trying to absorb plastic. So there are some technologies that are happening. Gokul said that he's in a dry monsoon area. I think Hyderabad kind of a climate. Area to the planted area is 99 by 100. Oh yeah, you need to somehow get this water. One of the most interesting ways, if you are talking of an urban scenario, is to soak the water at different points around your house. You can do that rather than focusing all the drain water down. You can distribute it to soak around your house, perimeter of the house. Part of it can go through your garden, and part of it you can definitely leave it out. Interesting way is to think of storing it vertically in pipes along your walls. Think about that. Pradeep Kumar Garu, thanks for a great open talk. Thanks for spending time with me, Pradeep Kumar Garu. Upendra Saina says, if we give you more marks, you will become more confident. I think that's a strange comment from you, boy. I cannot be any more confident than I am, right? I am overconfidence of overconfidence of overconfidence. I am like all the overconfidence of all the population of the planet put into a single mind. So yeah, you can give me more marks without harming. I can't go any higher in my overconfidence. Next, Sarath says, I am new to permaculture, but I understand permaculture is a solution for a lot of problems. Thank you. Thank you, Sarath Garu. I hope you pay more attention to learning about permaculture more deeply. That's awesome. Ram Kiranaya is giving me 35% of marks. I am coming to the farm. Yeah, and we'll talk. Right. So there is a lot of technology needed to invent to plant dependency techniques, I think the plant and supporting plant, yeah, there's a lot of study to be needed to be done. But with the knowledge we already have, we can set up systems. We don't need to wait for more technology to arrive. With the information we already have, we can change the world while being abundant. Yep, it is 1:30. Shall we end this stream? Any questions on Facebook streaming? Done. All right. Before we leave, don't leave. Wait. Before we leave, let me give you a couple of important things, important messages here, requests here. One is try to get on to the bandwagon as much as you can, learn as much as you can about permaculture, but more importantly, keep talking about it, keep sharing it with people, keep letting others know. That's the first part. Second part is start thinking about being a producer than a consumer in any of the fields that you are in. Try to produce something or the other, even if it's information, try to keep an eye out for that. And lastly, last but not least, watch out for an announcement, particularly if you are around Hyderabad or if you have friends around Hyderabad. Announcement we are going to make today or tomorrow regarding some stuff that we want to do in Hyderabad in view of the current scenario of the world. So wait up for a Facebook live telecast sometime today evening or maybe tomorrow regarding what we are going to do around Hyderabad in the month of March. It's a big announcement from our side, so wait up for that. Thank you for sitting through this talk. Any more doubts you can post always as comments in this, and I will keep checking it periodically to answer your questions. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we should call it a day because it's a day here, right? Oh, I see one more question. Did I? No, I have answered it. I have answered. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Bye. See you all.